He was this statue of man standing on that board, beautiful, graceful style. His arms were relaxed, his bronze body was glistening. The wave was just beautifully shaped. There was almost no wind. It was almost glassy. It was a pretty blue, crystal clear day. And he just kept going and going. And I kept thinking, when's he going to pull out? When's he going to pull out? And he just kept going as though he was blind. Sort of absorbed with the wave in himself, it became kind of a one thing. It was though time stopped for him, and he surfed into the pier. And he disappeared. We were searching frantically for him, and there wasn't a trace. There was not a trace, so he was gone. Gone.
Adversity is overcomable with enough passion, with enough belief, with enough inspiration. And so Nick's story, to me, is that story. You can live your dream Nick did. And if he can do it, we can do it.
Nick Gabaldon was a hero from the get-go.
He was the greatest.
Nick Gabaldon grew up in Santa Monica. At that point, the city of Santa Monica was still known as the playground of Los Angeles.
The pier then was like a circus, sort of a Coney Island Ferris wheel and a roller coaster, all kinds of little games you could play, throwing darts, you know. There was bathing beauties to surfers, guys who were lifting weights and pumping iron. Almost a fairy tale life.
Nick Gabaldon was African-American and Mexican descent.
You would look, first see him, he was complexion, he was more like a Hawaiian or something. He was tall, well-built, nice-looking fella.
The African-American community had been in existence in Santa Monica since the turn of the 20th century. They had established an area at the beach that a lot of people from Los Angeles would come out and utilize. The area was sometimes known as the Inkwell.
We could go to other beaches, but we weren't as welcome as we were at that beach.
The Inkwell is a place where blacks and minorities could come to the beach, relax, not look over their shoulders and worry about what someone's gonna say, because there was a lot of racial tension. I mean, whites back in the day didn't want to even be in the same water with black people. That's how bad it was.
My mother took me down there because she was comfortable there. It had been a place that she knew from her childhood, and she felt it safe enough to allow me to go and to be free.
Nick Gabaldon enjoyed the beach culture.
Sometimes we would skip school to go to the beach. If it was a nice sunny day, well, you might go to 2 classes and miss the other 3. We tried body surfing to begin with.
I worked Inkwell Beach a lot, and I remember those 2, body surfing a lot.
I mean, there's a myth that black people can't swim, and he had the courage to go out and do it.
We used to see the lifeguards had them big wooden boards. And then finally we just got interested in surfing.
When you think about in the past where African Americans weren't allowed to even drink out of the same water fountain as Caucasians, let alone be in the same pool. My parents' generation and her parents' generation, they were kept away from the water, and this is why they didn't learn how to swim. My mom said that she used to call me her little water baby. I loved being in the shower, being in pools, I loved it. And then I saw my first swim meet when I was 8, and I was like, I could beat him, and they kind of posed the question. It's like, well, do you want to do this? I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And was the only African American on the team. Most of the racism that I dealt with was usually the parents. Somebody walked by and said, shouldn't he be playing basketball? And my dad pulled me aside and said to me, think about it like this. The only reason why they're saying that is because you're beating their sons. That was fuel for me to be like, okay, well, you're mad because I'm beating you? All right, great. I'm gonna keep doing that.
Buzzy Trent used to like to lifeguard at the Inkwell Beach. The people would bring him food. You wouldn't believe the amount of food they'd bring him, And they liked Buzzy, I mean, he had charisma you wouldn't believe.
Buzzy Trent was a guru of surfing, brah. He was the man, brah. He did everything for the ocean. Everything was the ocean.
And Buzzy saw this Nick out there body surfing and swimming in the ocean, and he was just a natural, and he was a good body surfer. I think Buzzy said, you got to start surfing, That was Buzzy's nature, If Buzzy did something that he liked, he wanted other people to join him and have the fun that he was having,
When people see that someone's so interested in something, someone will take you under their wing and show you the ropes. That's how you knock down these color barriers. Because if you work hard and you're good at something, people have to respect that.
Nick was more into boards than I was. He just went gung-ho for it. And he was pretty good at it.
He really was a good surfer, and he really had a good time.
I'm really struck with the kind of perseverance that a person would have to try to tear down those barriers. Because when they watched him getting up on that surfboard, everybody was thinking that he'd be less than any one of them. That he wouldn't be as good of a surfer, perhaps because of the color of his skin. And he had a lot more pressure to go out there and to throw down better than anybody else. And I relate to that in many ways because of my own story. There would be people that would be doubting me, and I wanted to do it better than anybody else. The cutoff for Ironman was 17 hours, and I did it in 15. I did it 2 hours to spare to make history as the first woman on a prosthetic leg to do the Ironman. I have a disability, and I'm certainly different, but I'm not less than.
I'm always scared when I go surf when it gets big, I know the strength of the wave and I know what it can do to me. In surfing too, it's try to catch the bigger waves and just to risk it, and we can die. We can die every time. There's a rock, you fall, you hit your head on the rock, and that's it. It's part of what we do. It's surfing. Yeah.
I've had a couple crazy wipeouts where, it's like, whoa, I think I'm gonna die or something, but it's a thrill. It's almost like, you realize that you're okay, you didn't die. It's just, it's a great feeling. It's like, it's addicting. It's an addictive feeling. The guys that were doing it ahead of me basically gave me the motivation and the drive to do it.
When you've caught that wave, and it might be your first wave, it might be your 10th wave, it might be your 1000th wave. But when you get that wave, there's nothing else.
Once you catch a wave, I would say 9 out of 10 people are pretty hooked on surfing.
The next wave might be just that much better. It's an insatiable adrenaline junkie rush that maybe will carry me over to the other side.
I could see that Nick Gabaldon took it to that next level. He was hooked.
He really loved surfing. I mean, that was his life. He got really addicted by it.
Well, yeah, you know, we're all in search of the perfect wave, and so you got Malibu here. It just feels perfect. I think that was the natural attraction.
Malibu in the early years was the focus of seemingly the center of surfing.
The whole South Bay, when they wanted really good waves on the South Swell, would come to Malibu.
And when it was big, that's all we thought about, you know.
I remember it being sunny, glassy, beautiful, perfect surf. Lived the life of a surfer. I loved it.
You know, every waking second, every chance I could get, I came to Malibu.
At that time, Malibu had a kind of regular crew of surfers. You know, there might be 5 to 15 surfers, you know, if it was exceptional. Matt Kivlin, Ricky Grigg,
Joe Quidd, Tom Zahn.
One of the first times I ever surfed Malibu, I went with my older brother, 6 years older than me. That's Mickey Munoz. And I turned my head and I just saw Mickey Munoz just arch, hang 10 all the way across. It was so cool. When you're surfing out there, you have a brotherhood, you know, especially back in those days. I mean, wow, you're pioneering the sport of surfing.
No, you go to Malibu and everybody was welcome. You just didn't 86 anybody.
You had a group of people on the beach that all were in tune with each other. And whether black, white, or yellow, if they came in and that were in tune with that group, they fit right in.
If you were passionate about surfing, that's what really counted.
You know, growing up in my neighborhood, Jamaica, Queens, BMX wasn't always the cool thing to do. It's so crazy. Like, one of the names people used to call me, they used to call me a white boy for like riding a bicycle and doing tricks. I told myself that people saying those things to me are just super ignorant. I had this passion, this drive that outweighed all of that. Like, Nick paddled 12 miles to another beach because he heard they had awesome waves. For me as a kid, I'd hop on an hour-and-a-half train ride to the city to go meet up with other riders because there were better spots out there. It's that go big or go home attitude. I'm gonna prove everyone who doubted me wrong.
Malibu in the early years was the center of surfing.
That's all we thought about, you know.
We're all in search of the perfect wave, and you got Malibu here. It just feels perfect.
I can't imagine what it would be like to paddle 12 miles just to be able to surf Malibu. But, you know, in those days, in the 40s, it would have been, I'm sure, problematic as a black man with a surfboard to get from Santa Monica to Malibu. And then to be able to surf all day in those waves, I can't even imagine how exhausting that would be. Even in my best days, I don't think I could have done it.
Was he so stoked about surfing that he paddled that far just to go ride Malibu? He was a stud.
He had to get on his surfboard, paddle 12 miles to Malibu. Dude, I got chicken skin just thinking about it.
Everybody was like, Malibu, the perfect wave, you know? I guess I'd paddle that far, too.
He came up to me one day and said he paddled from, and I said, what? That's 12 miles, Nick. What are you doing? How do you have the energy to do anything? He says, well, I take it easy. He says, I pace it, you know. I don't race. And you get on the board and you start paddling, you know.
I would have loved to have shaken his hand if he wouldn't have crushed mine, no doubt.
I'm positive that made a huge impression on the Malibu surfers.
When a guy paddles up from Santa Monica and paddles back, you're going to notice him. And then, you know, that's how you earn respect.
In Southern California in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, there weren't many black people in any way, shape, or form. And having a good black surfer at Malibu was a bit unusual at that time.
I admired Nick for going to an all-white beach at that time.
I guess it was unique. Nick was black, but I don't think anybody really thought that much about it. I think what really mattered was he was a good guy and he served.
Nick is interesting because he was, you know, looked upon as being perhaps an oddity, which in a sport that was, you know, pioneered, you know, at least 1,000 years before by non-whites. If you went in Polynesia, he would be the norm.
It was so natural for Nick just to be out there with us.
The ocean doesn't care if you're rich, doesn't care if you're poor, doesn't care if you're good looking, doesn't care if you're famous. It just anybody that can survive and thrive out there, it will be accepted by people that survive and thrive.
His style of surfing was so gentle and so graceful. He was that kind of a person.
There wasn't a soul that didn't like Nick. He was just easygoing, good sense of humor. He always had a smile, and he loved the ocean.
If you lost your board and he rode the next wave in, he would stick his foot over on the side of his board and tow it back out for you.
There was no chance of him cutting anybody off or getting in anybody's way or bothering anybody.
Yeah, your wave, bro.
He was the kind of guy who would rather be in the background than be up in the front, although he was in the front just by his looks and his nature and his stature and his ability, his coordination and everything else, put him up in front.
He didn't have to say anything to carry that charisma that you just felt about him.
And he was idolized. I mean, everybody knew Nick, and the girls loved him, you know. God, once he came on that beach, it was Duke Anamoko all over again, you know. I mean, he was kind of a hero to a lot of us, you know, for what he was and what he represented. He represented something that I think was all positive.
Nick's story is important, not just because of what Nick went through, but how it really impacted the people around him. When people can have the wisdom to recognize that we're all the same, we're all people, there's good people and there's bad people, and they come in every color and every race, that's the message. It's just about acceptance. It's definitely challenging when you're different. Being 6 foot in the 6th grade, that's taller than every teacher in the school. Kids would tease me and talk about my feet, and I was praying like, oh God, let my feet stop growing, because, you know, it was just so noticeable. And so I guess my biggest adversity was just accepting the fact that I was tall. And that just comes down to self-esteem and really learning to love yourself and what, you know, you've been given. And now what are you gonna do with it? And I started playing basketball and pursued it like, you know, as they say, the last bus of the night.
Nick picked me up, and we went down to Malibu to, well, it just was a nice, pretty day. It was a good, pleasant day, and most of the guys were catching good waves and enjoying themselves.
Probably one of the biggest days I've ever seen there. We used to gauge the size of the waves by whether or not you could ride them all the way to the pier.
There was white water going past the end of the pier. Huge, huge surf for Malibu.
And Nick took off on the first wave.
He decided he was going to shoot the pier.
People were warned not to try to shoot the pier.
That pier has pilings that are very close together. And for someone to steer their surfboard on a wild wave through that pier has completely gone mad.
Imagine how much courage you had to take to shoot the pier back then on a 12-foot, probably wood board.
How does a guy pump himself up to have such phenomenal risk when you look at the situation, it looks like just built-in disaster. It's kind of like a kamikaze pilot.
We all just happened to look up at the time, I guess, that he was heading for the pier, and we saw him. And then the next thing you know, we didn't see him.
Then I took off on the second wave, and it was good size, maybe 6 feet. I came flying across the wave and got near the pier, and I saw everybody on shore running to the south side of the pier, and I understood immediately that Nick had hit the pier, and something had happened over there. I got down the pier and I tried to work my way through the pilings, but it was pretty rough and pretty big surf. And I did finally work my way through the pier in between sets, and everybody was down there holding hands, and they walked out trying to find his body, but they couldn't do it. Couldn't find Nick.
Buzzy and I ran down the beach as fast as we could. We dove into the water. We were searching frantically for him.
And their lifeguard was saying, no, you guys get back. Don't go in the water. You can't because it's so rough. And it was just pounding. You could see it kept churning in the water.
Between sets, there'd be lulls, and we'd open. We didn't have a mask or anything, but we were searching frantically for him. And there wasn't a trace. There was not a trace, so.
Buzzy spent a long time trying to find him when it happened. He was almost hysterical trying to find him and screaming and yelling and really upset about it all.
Where is he? Where is he? Come back.
You felt empty. It's like everything inside of you just drained. You didn't know what to do or how to react. Because here you see somebody, the next minute you don't see them. And you can't go looking for them. You don't know what to do. You just stand there wondering what in the world's going on.
I just felt numb and I felt shocked.
The rest of that day, it just seemed like it got cold. It just chilled. And most of the people was on the beach just packed up and left.
All week long, I know most of us stayed out of the water and we were all upset. Terrible thing. And then when proof positive came in, well, we knew he was gone anyway.
But 3 days later, unfortunately, I was up there again, and someone had said that there was a body. And it might have been Nick. So there was a group of us who paddled out. It was about 500 yards offshore.
You know, I'm a pretty impressionable little kid, you know, paddling over, and here's this guy that I knew that you know, had taken me tandem surfing. You know, it was like, okay, and we kind of paddled around, you know, one time and paddled back.
Lifeguards pulled him in all right. He was brought up in a security bag, and I can remember standing there in total shock. They unzipped the bag, and they just said, anyone recognize this man? I said, yeah, that's Nick Gabaldon. I was handed a clipboard, and they said, sign here. I never heard any more about it.
And we were all there, and it was very, very sad to see Nick.
They just took him away.
So it did make a pretty big impression.
That was terrible. It affects me to this day, because I think he had a brilliant future ahead of him.
it's been in my mind ever since, and that was 50, 60 years ago, so.
I think he died doing what he wanted to do.
It was a natural thing. It wasn't tragic. Yes, we were sorry and we felt a great loss, but we also felt that that's where Nick was almost destined to be.
When I die, or if I want to be sent back in the water with my ashes,
I think maybe he's up there.
So no, I don't say he was a saint, but yet and still, how can you define it?
All of our good friends that passed away that surfed, they're on all the good unwritten ones. That's them.
I know he's around because I can feel him.
The spirit is eternal, and I've never really called upon Nick, but you know what? Nick is surfing with us.
The only one who can tell you you can't is you. And you don't have to listen.
Anyone who is driven to become the best they can be can find inspiration in Nick's story.
The fact that you have an opportunity to live this life and impact it and help people and give back, that's the beauty of it.
Dream big and dream bold.
If you have the dreams, nobody else will tell you what to do.
No matter what is in your way, if you have drive and you really want to get to where you need to go, you need to do whatever you can to get there.
You work at it, you can do whatever you want to do, anything.
I surf with Nick.
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 You already know I surf with Nick.
He wrote this, I think it was premonition as to what was going to happen, called Lost Lives. So the capricious oceans are very strong.
Robust, powerful. Can I be wrong?
Pounding and beating upon your cousin's shore.
Come you clapping, rapping with a mighty roar.
The sea vindictive with waves so high.
For me to battle, and still they die.
Many hath taken to its bowels below.
Without regards, it does thus bestow.
It's laurels to unwary men, with riches taken from ships gone by.
Its wet song reaches to the sky.
To claim its fallen man-made birds.
And plunge them into the depths below with a nauseous surge.
Scores and scores have fallen prey
to the salt of animosity, and many more will victims be
of the capricious, vindictive sea.
Oh, avaricious ocean so strong, robust, powerful, I'm not wrong.
Pounding, beating upon your cousin's shore. Come you clapping, rapping with a mighty roar.